Accord.
Earth Day 2021, Sustainable Cities. An introduction to sustainable cities presented by Constance, Josh, and myself. My name is Claudia. Welcome to our training workshop and how sustainability in the future could look like in our cities. Our focus is centered around activities to reduce the expulsion of CO2 from transportation, to sustain food supply in the form of urban agriculture, confronting our food deserts and extensive supply chains across the country, and promoting a vegan or vegetarian diet to combat health issues and for the preservation of land resources.
You may be asking yourself, what does a sustainable city look like? There are many examples throughout the world of sustainable cities like Copenhagen, San Francisco, Vancouver, London, and New York. And a sustainable city has alternative forms of transportation. So not just think of a city where there's not just cars, there's abundant bicycle usage, bus usage, high-speed rails, subways, multiple forms of communication that limits the amount of carbon dioxide being released into our atmosphere. There's also vertical farms, community farms, the community coming together to build and create food security for the members of the community. Sustainable cities are powered by alternative forms of energy, like solar power, and engage in water harvesting. Sustainable cities also stimulate the local economy. They support each other's small businesses and rely on local foods and local products to eliminate the amount needed to demand or to rely on imports. Sustainable cities have abundant organic, local vegan foods available. So you're not just relying on fast foods and other franchised, unsustainable, factory farm meat. Sustainable cities also have walking zones and bike zones, so members of the community can enjoy their city and not just have to, try and cross through traffic. Sustainable cities encourage people to get out and walk and bike throughout their communities and connect with each other. Sustainable cities also, rely heavily on recycling, composting, alternative waste solutions, and these cities provide members of the community with the items they need to effectively recycle, compost, and reduce or eliminate waste.
So what we're going to be learning today is how you as an individual can make a difference in your community, how to contact city officials and make changes, how to educate yourself on what your ecological footprint is and the tools to make changes, what kind of sustainable options are already available in your city currently, and how to grow your own food, and how to veganize foods that you already love, and why you should choose alternative forms of transportation.
But wait, let's stop first and pause this. Let's set a benchmark first and discover what your ecological footprint looks like before we go on to our training workshop. So we want you to have an understanding of what your ecological impact is on your current environment, and from there kind of see the different criteria and see how you can make any changes. So please take this moment and just click on the link. It will take you directly to the Footprint Network, and you can just take the quick survey about your different habits, transportation, what you eat, where you live, what kind of energy sources you use, and that will give you a better picture where you are right now on this planet.
Now, you may be rolling your eyes when we talk about veganism, but we're not trying. We're not asking you to give up eating meat completely. We're not asking you to give up cheese. We're not asking you to give up dairy. We're just asking you to take a moment and think about the benefits of reduced meat consumption. There are many benefits to giving up, one meal a week, 2 meals a week of eating meat and choosing a more organic and sustainable meal for you to eat. So the meat consumption wreaks havoc on our environment and your health. When we take a look at, the nitrous oxide emissions, livestock manure, literal manure, causes 65% of the nitrous oxide emissions in our atmosphere and 25 to 30% of the atmosphere's methane emissions. This is just from cows being grown and harvested for meat consumption, especially for the fast food industry that profits off of their suffering. Meat, re- Meat production is responsible for 5 times more water contamination than waste. So the process of growing these animals, slaughtering the animals and bringing them to production creates 5 times more water contamination than your literal waste that you have in your home. That is so wild to me. And by just reducing the amount of meat that we consume in a week, we can significantly reduce that. Vegan and vegetarian diets are healthier and tend to be lower in fats and cholesterol. Cholesterol does not exist in plant-based foods. It has to be Cholesterol only exists in animal meats and animal byproducts like cheese and milk. And we know cholesterol leads to heart disease and obesity. And so by reducing the amount of meat you consume, you can help to expand your life expectancy. It takes 2,500 gallons of water, 12 pounds of grain, and 35 pounds of topsoil, and the energy equivalent to 1 gallon of gasoline to produce 1 pound of feedlot. That is just 1 pound of feed that is used to feed these animals. So that is the equivalent to feeding multiple people, and we are wasting it by just producing the feed to feed the meat. Choosing a vegan and vegetarian diet can help work towards ending world hunger, because all of the grain and soy that's used to make their feed can be used in other foods.
Well, let's look at the harmful effects of urban sprawl, which have been impacting our communities. Large metropolitan areas and cities across the United States have a lot of urban sprawl happening, and particularly in Florida. The price of land in inner cities has skyrocketed with a lack of availability and also affordable housing, which has forced many lower income families to seek rentals and real estate purchases outside the city in what is called suburban communities. Now, these single family housing communities, mostly put in place by developers, they're popping up like mushrooms all over the place, encroaching on important ecosystems. And the consequence is that the infrastructure has been built up with asphalt roads, and most people face a longer commute to work. Planners have not shown too much consideration in this urban sprawl, and the cost for the individual homeowners are actually very high in numbers when you think about all the infrastructure which has to be created in order to make this a living environment. Motor vehicles use about 145 billions of gallons of gasoline in a year. And public transportation would save us about 4.2 billions of gasoline. And with a better infrastructure of trains and also different bus routes and alternative transportation, developed and planned into this urban sprawl, it could really help us significantly, and also with the development of the electric cars.
Besides the obvious health benefits of growing your own food, there are so many more advantages to doing so. Um, some of these are environmental advantages, specifically soil decontamination. Vacant urban lots are often victims to illegal dumping of hazardous chemicals and other wastes. They are also liable to accumulate standing water or gray water, which can be dangerous to public health, especially if left stagnant for long periods. The implementation of urban agriculture in these vacant lots can be a cost-effective method for removing these chemicals. This process is known as phytoremediation. Plants and the associated microorganisms are selected for their chemical ability to degrade, absorb, convert to inert form, and remove toxins from the soil. Several chemicals can be targeted, as well as heavy metals. Another advantage to growing your own food is community improvement. Um, this includes aesthetic improvement, crime reduction, minority empowerment, preservation of culture through heirloom seed harvesting, and reduce noise pollution, which has been linked to hearing impairment, hypertension, heart disease, sleep disturbance, and decreased school performance. Since most roofs or vacant lots consist of hard, flat surfaces that reflect sound waves instead of absorbing them, adding plants can absorb these waves and have the potential to reduce noise pollution. Another advantage is social justice. When we grow our own food, we eliminate food deserts or areas um, where people have no access to high quality, nutrient dense foods. We also reduce racial and class disparities, putting everyone on an equal playing field with access to the same nutrient rich, abundant food supply. Finally, we see economic advantages. For every $1 invested in a community garden, there's a $6 yield, not including labor costs. This will also lead to lower grocery bills, saving on lawn maintenance, what is spent on watering and fertilizer, economic uplift of poor communities, and job creation.
So join us for the next 45 minutes. We thank you for attending our training workshop today. We will go further into these topics, and we hope that you leave understanding what your ecological footprint is and different ways that you can contribute to lowering that for yourself and your community. Claudia will introduce forms of transportation. Josh will share with you how to grow your own food indoors. And Constance, or me, will show you how to veganize any meal. We will also be sharing resources for your community and how to contact city leaders about your concerns and what you can do to make a difference together. Thank you.